How many of you live in apartments, high-rise apartments? High-rise means anything beyond 3 floors. Okay. So, how many times you get downstairs? कितने बार आप नीचे जाते हो? How many times you go downstairs? Rarely we go, right? I live in 16th floor and it's ridiculous. But so the whole logic was that human being is part of the ecosystem. And the moment you start living above the tree, the first thing what you do is that you start disrespecting the tree. You have gone taller than tree. You have gone taller than the trees, right? So that's why, these are the small things which comes in the childhood, that elder is sitting, you just sit down, right? It used to be said in the past, but it's not practiced anymore. But going back where it is coming from. So once you go beyond the trees, first thing is that, yes, disrespect is a metaphorical term, because all these emotions are metaphorical term to explain a lot of things. What we are doing is that you are not getting the chirping of the birds the way it is supposed to come to you. There used to be a time when the chirping of the bird used to wake you up. It's no more the case. Of course, one reason being that, of course, there are not many trees, but one more reason is that you are living way beyond where the chirping of the birds could come, right? And the sound travels in a particular way. It doesn't travel this way, right? Then you have cut yourself off from the feel of being below the tree. The feel of being below the tree is somewhat very different. Once you walk to the orchard, you will see the difference. You will feel the difference. It's just something which can't be matched with any artificial garden what you build. So what we do, we create small kind of landscape, terrace and all. We say that we have created all those kind of fancy stuff. But will it ever suffice the need what a human being was needed to be? No, it will not, because we are breaking the wreath. We broke the wreath. We broke the deal with the nature. So nature will not take care of you anymore. And there have been a lot of, when Christopher Alexander was dealing with this subject of high rise, that once you live beyond a certain height, that time a lot of high rise had not even happened in USA when he was writing this book. But still there were tall buildings. So he was explaining that it starts affecting you psychologically. So if a person is not going to work and is always back in house, so the person will just see the 4 into multiple walls, multiple rooms, what you want to say. Those will be the only seeing what he was seeing, because in the packed up life of the current time, you don't have even time to meet across with the people around, right? You are completely disconnected with the nature. So what you have done to yourself, you have brought yourself to a cell, a jail. You are literally created a jail for yourself, which will start affecting you psychologically, and it will affect your consciousness. Consciousness is a lived experience. Now, we all build something, we all do certain kind of architecture, whether you are working in IT sector, whether you are working in a mechanical engineering sector, whichever sector, you are performing some kind of creation. And all the creations are the output of the consciousness. So if your consciousness will not be at the right order, the products which you will create will certainly not be a healthy thing for any civilization which is existing or is to come in the days to come by. Now, it really becomes very interesting that these are the problems, these are the challenges, and we do understand that, yes, the traditional way of looking at architecture was much more different than how we envisage it today, because of the population load, right? One can come up with a point that population load is so high, we need to go high, right? We need to go taller, the building needs to go up. Like the places where we are using a FSI of around 5 to 6. FSI is floor space index, or FAR, floor area ratio. It means the site is an X area, X acres or X square meter. When it is 5, it means you can build 5 into X square meter. So when you look at the bylaws of, say, 10 years back, it will talk about 2 FSI. Before that, it will talk about 1 FSI. So I hear the stories from I used to hear stories from the college professors. There used to be a period when if you could get FSI beyond 1 somewhere, it's like that, wow, we have got what it is, it's miracle. But we are dealing in Bangalore itself, we are dealing with FSI of around 5 to 6 with the, basically you can transfer FSI from a certain place to other place. So those are the provisions which have come in. So we have started going up and up. But at the same time, it is really backfiring. It is backfiring the whole psychological aspect of the human being. Health issues are coming. We are not really living as a human being as architecture should have let us live, let us have lived to be. And going back to the verse of Winston Churchill, that first we shape our buildings and then they shape us. They are shaping us in a very negative directions. Now, so what should be the way forward and where do we stand? Because these are the challenges. You are supposed to build, you are supposed to cater to the population, you are supposed to cater to the need of the offices which are required. You have to build that much. So what is the least we can do? One is that now if I say that we need to look back to the Vastu Shastra, so does it necessarily mean that I am suggesting to go to the Vastu Purush Mandala? In Vastu Shastra, we have got a Vastu Purush Mandala that in different regions it's assigned that, in the Agni Cone you can, in terms of residential, you can have kitchen, right? In the southwest region, you will have a master bedroom. But it's a very interesting case. Have you ever thought that why a kitchen was supposed to be in the southeast and why master bedroom in southwest? Any logic? Because it's not written white, or so you can put a logic. No one will say that's wrong. No, it's different at different places. It's very logical. And no, it varies from places to places, sir. That's a problem. So necessarily it is, see, in India, whatever principles we set, it was based on sun. Sun was the primary thing. And it was considered that southeast is a place where the sun rays will always be there, and the kitchen was not so sophisticated as we have right now, right? So it used to kill all the germs, the moisture will just go off, and the morning light was very important because that's when the cooking is happening, that's when the water is being spilled. So the heat of the east was very much necessary. And the southwest was very integral because southwest was one of the most warmest region, because sun is the highest in the south and the lowest in the west. But temperature is also high in the south and also in the west, in the hemisphere where we live in. Now, when that region is very much heated up, it needs to be occupied by people who don't live there. So generally the masters are the one who are not gonna be living there. Because of that back then, the male would go to the work and female will not be staying there but be looking after the household, like how they looked at the things in that period. So it was never occupied. So that's the reason why southwest was given to the masters. It was never assigned to be used by someone else. And that was the logic for having the thing in the southeast, kitchen in the southeast. So coming back to whether we are we supposed to go back to the Vastu Shastra for doing will it solve the problem? Yeah, to some extent. But how do we deal with it in offices? There was no offices back then. So, yeah. Yeah. But, yeah. 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 So basically, what happens that office buildings are very much governed by one idea that the tenant or the person who is going to occupy it, he just wants a lot of carpet area so that he can put lot employees into the place. So they are just, let's cramp. So if National Building Code will say that, 10 per 10 meter square you have to put one person, Accenture will come and say, hey, we want to put one person 7 square meter. So the whole idea is to cramp in more and more people. So I'm talking about the challenges what we are seeing into the time of now. Now, Vastu plays a very crucial role in terms of really taking care of it in terms of climatology. So what it has done, it has given us the path of that basic thumb rule Thumb rule is a rule which is not for the professional, that aisa hota hai to aisa hota hai. That's why it's called thumbs rule. You don't need to be literate in that field. That's why it's thumbs rule. The thumb rule is very clear. That sun is there in the east, high in the south, sets in the west, and so the west sun, the sun of the west, when it's down, right, it will always be giving you glare. Glare is something which directly comes into your eyes. You just can't control it. You can't stop it. South sun is what you can stop, right? Because using the chhajjas, because it's high. But when the sun is coming directly from here, what you will do? You can't, right? Because in the office building, we'll have the glazing, the glass. So the ideas which needs to be adopted is that we need to start relooking into the orientation of the buildings, which is very necessary. That how do we orient our building? How do we orient our buildings in such a way that it gets maximum of the diffuse light? And we make the office building, right now, if you go to the places where the office buildings exist in the masses, the IT parks, you'll see a very thick floor plates, like they are ginormous. So if the light will certainly not come in the central areas, because light also travels at a certain distance. Here again, the thumb rule for the arrival of the light is, it travels twice the length, twice the height of the window. So if the height is say 10 feet for the window, so light will reach only 20 feet. 20 feet this side, 20 feet that side. So 40 feet is your span, and whatever in the between is a dark space. And the dark spaces are the spaces which are gonna make life again very unhealthy. I sit in my office in a place where no natural light comes. It's all these kind of lights. So what does it starts affecting? It is certainly affecting me, though I am not aware, but it has an impact for me, because as a human being, I was supposed to live with the direct sun rays. I was supposed to live with the nature, but that's not the case anymore. So because if everyone is not going to pursue the profession as an architect, but certainly someone will become the client. So it also needs to be controlled by the client, the user, that you need to come across with the idea to the architect that let's not do it. I understand that maybe that I will lose a bit of say some crores of rupees here and that, but the largest, where the healthy being is concerned, the health capital, which is very crucial for us, because if the civilization will not be healthy, then there's no point of having all those offices. Perhaps, because there are places where the age of the people is reducing day by day, and there are places where sickness is increasing. There are a lot of geographies in the world. Now, again, coming back to the approaches, there is a thing what we always use in architecture is passive techniques. Passive techniques, how many of you are from the northern part of India? Anyone else? Northern part of India. Northern part. So there's a very common thing there, khas. You remember? Khas. So there what we do, you use a khas and put water into it, and this just works with the principle of the coolers. And coolers also, we used to have those khas. So this is one of the passive techniques by which we reduce the temperature of a place by keeping it wet. Then there's an idea called evaporative cooling. So if you know the wind direction, you were talking about the wind direction that time, but wind direction plays a very crucial role. If I let the wind pass over the water, what this will do, this will cool the place automatically. So I will talk about a building. It was done by the previous firm where I worked in. It is called Pearl Academy of Design. It's in Jaipur. So I was working with morphogenesis back then. So again, because it's Jaipur, the temperature is so high. And the idea was to build a structure which can operate the maximum without the use of the air conditioners. So there they laid the principles of the cooling towers. We laid the principles of the evaporative cooling, like use the water and let the wind pass, and use the effect, the concept of stack effect. The warm wind goes from the up and the cold wind stays. So it's all the matter of arranging your outlets where what you want to retain and what, like for example, the ceiling fan is a very stupid thing. What it does is that it keeps you happy psychologically, but warm air is all on the top. It's not giving you the cold air because the cold air is all below, it's not up. So it doesn't help you that much. So that's the reason why the table fans or the pedestal fans helps you much more than the ceiling fans. So now again, how can we moderate the direction of wind by using the vegetation? How can we start bringing the change into the use of the material? Talking back to this structure of Pearl Academy of Jaipur, in that a lot of employment was also created for the local craftsmen. So a method which was adopted there was use of a lot of filler slabs. Filler slab, these are the slabs which I'm talking about, the roof slabs. So roof slabs, how many of you have seen the concreting of the slabs? Anyone else? Concreting of the slab, how the concreting happens or how the roof slab is made? So basically how it happens is that we lay the steel members, you make the rectangles, right? These are laid and then you pour concrete over it. So that is a reinforcement and you pour the concrete, so it becomes a reinforced concrete. Now, in a filler slab technology, what we do, we use either the pot or the cover of the pot in those spaces, in all those places. And it is in the shape of an arch, right? Now, this is where the rods are laid and I am placing such pots over there. Now, when I place concrete on the top, so only certain part will be concreted and whatever in the bottom will not be concreted, right? Now, if you get into the structural design of it, the structural strength comes from the top portion. You don't need so much of concrete. It happens because there was no other method to really reduce it. So what it does is that first it reduces the use of concrete by around 40%. It reduces it there. At the same time, because it's an earthy material, it reduces the temperature by a range of around 5 to 10 degrees Celsius. So that's massive in a place like Jaipur. And we can start adopting these methodology in our houses, what we build, right? So first what it does, it reduces the use of concrete. It gives a lot of opportunities to the local pot makers. Like now people are not using ghada and matki and those earthy material to make the water cool. So it can be even be the source of employment for them. You can generate certainly a massive amount of employment if almost all the houses, says in certain region, adopt to this idea that, hey, in this society we will build all the villas using the filler slabs. Imagine then how many pots will be manufactured that way. So at the same time, what you are doing, you are increasing the employment for the local tradition of creating the utensils. At the same time, you are trying to help yourself by reducing the temperature. Maybe that you may not need the active cooling, that is the use of the machine air conditioner. You will be air conditioning the space just by the use of these passive methods. Bringing in back the courtyards. So in Bangalore, I got to design a project in which we brought back the whole concept of the courtyard. Certainly, it was not that big because this is the villas in the complete development, being sold by the builder. But we brought in the courtyard that really helped not only to moderate the temperature, but also it brought people close to the nature, because courtyard gives you an opportunity to plant at least 2 trees from the earth instead of bringing some pots on the balconies. So it makes you flow with the nature. Nature is with you, and you start your connect starts rebuilding them. Now, these are certain methods which can bring small changes. Now, as far as the larger changes are concerned, it will start happening only and only if we start adopting to the methods of reducing our uses, because the alternative methods are very temporary. Like for example, until unless you don't reduce the use of energy consumption, like how many of you believe that printing the email is dangerous? How many of you believe that if you print the email it's dangerous because all the emails reads, don't print? Okay. Okay. What about else? Yeah? That's the whole point. See, I'll tell you, when you printed an email, I am a person who believes in hardbound. When I don't read Kindles, I will need a book. So the point is that what happens that when you are referring to an email, by each and every click, the certain amount of energy which is being consumed in a larger picture. This is always there. The moment you have printed it and you have kept it, you need not go to it. You printed, it's always there with you, and it always helps in because. And also an idea that a lot of lectures are being delivered through the, like for example, you see a lot of lectures on YouTube, and it said that because it's all available online, you have saved a lot of energy. But it's not the case, because on YouTube, there's a whole big hard drive or hard disk somewhere storing so much of data, running 24 into 7 into see how much. Each and every click of you on the computer is harming a lot to the energy crisis. It is doing so. So we need to get smarter, and we need to start reducing our consumption, because anything which is available so easily electronically is gonna be abused. It will be abused that way, that you will just keep on using it. Like for example, even the attitude by which we design has changed a lot. There was a period when the designs were made through the hand drafting. So people were very cautious, very careful. They were so touchy about their design. But in a matter of one Control Z, I can just redo what was done, and it all just has just become so much mechanical, and it has made the things more disastrous. It is leading us to some disasters in some way. It's the whole story of Bhasmasur. I believe all of you must be knowing that, if you get a boon, it can just become like a bane any day. So we have to use it very wisely. So yeah, so these are certain points which I have put across to you. What do you feel about Indian architecture now? That where we are heading, and I did try to connect it with the nature system. I did try to connect with what our original practice was, to respect the wreath, why the diversity exists, and which is kind of becoming uniform now. I must mention it. Like if you see a IT building in Bombay, it will be the same perhaps what you will see in Guwahati too. It will not be different, though it is ought to be different. So what do you hope about it, about the whole thing right now?